We're back.
Welcome. I'm glad to have you back in the seat next to me. It's exciting. We're going to talk about signal versus noise. Why is that important conversation? Why did we feel like this is something we want to talk about? And who is this conversation for, Heidi?
Well, this conversation's for everyone that lives in our modern world, where there is a ton of noise constantly when it comes to what we're taking in externally. Let's just start there. Social media, TV, all of the news and people's opinions and ideas about what it means to be successful and what your life should look like and all kinds of things.
All the shoulds, yeah.
Yeah. What you should look like, what your home should look like, what your life should look like, how you are successful or not.
The why and the who it's for me is it jumps off as people who experience lack of confidence, anxiousness, confusion, lack of clarity. Like all of that is an outcome of too much noise.
Yeah.
And not tuning into signal.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is noise and signal?
Well, the noise is basically what I just defined there. It's anything that's misaligned with the truth of who you've come here to be. So the signal is getting in touch with the truth of who you've come here to be, your true essence, the work that you're here to do in the world, the impact that you're here to make. And the noise is anything that doesn't align with that.
Yeah, that distracts you from that. Yeah. So I think let's, I love this simple illustration. We'll start with this very simple illustration. And before we go into it, we're always sending, we're always receiving. When I say sending, it's like broadcasting. And sometimes what we broadcast will even amplify louder, bigger, noisier, right? And to what level? So we're always sending and receiving a signal. We actually have an antenna in our brain that sends and receives information. And let's think of it in terms of a radio station, right? If, like you said, I am gaining clarity around who I am, who I've come here to be, the experience of life and the impact, like what is the meaning of life, all of those types of components, those are going to help me to make sure that I'm able to tune into signal and send to broadcast to amplify the proper signal. Right? So when you're in a radio, when you're in a car and you're listening to the radio, if anybody ever tunes into the actual radio, doesn't use like Spotify and those type of things anymore. If you actually tune in, you would know like you have to kind of search for a signal that is in the, right proximity. There's a radio station sending that signal somewhere for you to listen to classic rock or whatever that might be. And if you aren't, it's 99.9 or whatever it is on your radio station, if you're at 99.7, it has a little bit of distortion and, or it might even, like I've heard you say before, it might even you might be picking up two radio stations at the same time. Yeah.
Picking up two different signals. And then now you're really unclear as to your direction or what you're listening to.
So now the message has become distorted, right? You don't know which one to follow. I mean, it's just, we don't have to even, it's like, it's so obvious anymore how much stimulation and consumption there is out there in the world. How many things out there that are like legitimately just trying to capture your attention, your and pull you in different directions.
Yeah. Attention is currency.
Yeah. Yeah. So this concept of signal versus noise came from an online course that we're taking right now from our neuroscience specialist, Stephanie Fay. Her program, this online course is called Neuro Wisdom. So we started kind of dabbling with it, just watching bits and pieces of it sometime in like December. So I actually did a bit of an experiment. You know how I like to make myself an experiment. And I've heard the idea of signal versus noise before, but I've never had it presented to me in a way that was quite as robust and thorough as she had presented it. And, she speaks mainly to like life coaches, people who are therapists, counselors, people who are teaching and facilitating, healers, those type of things. And so somewhere around the December time is when I watched that module about signal and noise. And so I made a commitment January 1 to grossly reduce the amount of noise in my life. So I just about eliminated social media for 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. And it felt weird at first. Mm-hmm. It felt like something was missing a little bit. Not that I was on social media a ton, but it was enough to where that felt like something had been stripped away a little bit. Eventually, I decided to pick back up with YouTube just a little bit, because I do find value in looking for videos that help to add a layer of like teachability to my content. When I might grab a little 2 or 3 minute video of Kobe Bryant talking about process over outcome or whatever, and send it to a client or play it for a team or those type of things, just to, so it's not always just coming from me.
Yeah.
And so I began to so I made myself an experiment starting the first of this year. And I'll tell you this, that the outcome for me by reducing noise has been way more clarity. Now, clarity of like next steps, of what I want to create, of the experience I want to have, and recognizing, man, if I had to give a percentage on how much signal versus noise before January 1, I don't know what, it'd probably be something like 60-40. If I would probably, maybe even 50-50, yeah, 60-40 feels right. 60% where I was doing things, consuming things that were a signal, and 40% noise on, how much I was just consuming. So the outcome of really getting clear about that essence, that who you've come here to be, the experience you want to have, the impact you want to make, and making sure that we are properly tuning in to that radio station that we're consuming, at least 80% signal and 20% noise, because once in a while, a little bit of noise is kind of like, it's nice to distract yourself. But it has been a game changer for me when it comes to just noticing it in my nervous system and creating it as quite a bit more clarity in direction of next steps for business, for life, for relationship, and all of those type of things. I feel like I'm coming more into alignment and integrity with that essence that you speak of.
Mm-hmm. You've actually created space for certain hobbies and things that you hadn't done for a while too. So
super small things, like I've actually, 10 years ago, I enjoyed working in the yard. I enjoyed yard projects. I enjoyed mowing the lawn, and I had gotten so busy these last 10 years or so that I felt like it was a waste of time. I felt like it was a distraction in and of itself. But interesting enough, I didn't make this correlation that you just brought up. Interesting enough, like even this last weekend, from Memorial Day weekend, we intently hung around the house and did some projects and just only did a few things, and then barbecued a little bit and just relaxed, and really a lot of downtime. And I enjoyed thoroughly mowing the lawn. I enjoyed making these little planter boxes for the shed. I enjoyed things that normally I wouldn't enjoy. And so curious about, like, for you, because this has been, whenever we come up with a topic like this, we usually typically discuss it on our own for weeks or months on our walks and stuff like that. Like, how has signal and noise shown up for you, and how have you practiced that?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind is my meditation practice right now, taking the time to stop and tune in. I actually have it in my calendar as tuning the signal.
That's awesome.
So that's been big. Another thing that comes to mind too, that I'm thinking just past experience, even getting out of our environment, we love being home. We're homebodies, but getting out of your environment can actually open you up to be able to receive some different signal as well. So there's like the daily habits of scrolling or whatever it is, kind of information that you're consuming. I remember there was a time in my life where I would turn on the TV as soon as I got home from work, and I had to have some sort of background noise going on. Now that drives me crazy. So you can absolutely shift those habits, but just getting out of your regular environment or setting down some of those things, like you said, setting down the social media. I've done periods of time of that as well, and just noticed how much more mental space I felt like I had in that. But right now for me, for sure, my meditation practice and intentionally tuning the signal, because I feel like I come out of that with so much more clarity around the type of mom that I want to be, the type of partner that I want to be, that coach I want to be for my clients, and what needs to happen for me to have that level of energy that I want to bring.
Well, you're talking about how you used to, I remember that, by the way, it used to drive me a little bit nuts, that the very first thing that you would do in the morning while you're getting ready for work or whatever, you would turn on the news, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of noise. And we call it that. Like, there's noise.
It's noise. Yeah.
It's no, we call it noise, but we haven't ever made it the differentiate between the signal and noise, right? And everything's a pattern, right? And so if we are getting so used to constantly digesting just information and noise, like, we will actually get addicted to that distraction, to that buffering, to that just constant having noise in our lives. The problem is that it turns into internal noise, because every single thing that you digest, every single lyric that you listen to, every single video that you watch, everything, it goes into your mind. It makes an impression, right? And then so people have very, very busy minds, which creates a level of distortion internally, or lack of clarity. And therefore then, with that confusion and or noise, the best way for them to drown out the noise is to turn on more noise, is to turn up the volume of the noise and the frequency of it, to listen to more music, to watch more shows, to how many times do you reach for your phone and just to buffer, to pass the time, I remember when I used to do a little bit more social media, once in a while I found myself reaching for my phone when I'm at a stoplight. I'm like, for how much time? It's like, you can't.
You see people doing it all the time.
You can't handle the 30 seconds or the 45 seconds of sitting at a red light. You have to have something to entertain yourself. Like that piece is what's scary to me, based upon my experience as well, is that the external noise creates internal noise, and then to quiet the internal noise, instead of learning to prune that away, instead of learning to quiet that down through, all the practices of nervous system regulation, breath work, meditation, whatever it may be, just that pruning concept, you just have to turn up the volume. You have to actually play louder music. You have to have, noise on more often.
I think that leads to a level of, like, for myself personally, that's all I can really speak to, my personal experience. It leads to this feeling of, what is the point? Because you're not in alignment or in touch with any bigger goal or ideal for your life. It's just kind of like, I'm managing all of this noise and there's no clear signal. That's what I think. That's really what we're talking about.
Yeah, managing noise versus clear signal. So we're constantly sending, we're constantly receiving. So we're either broadcasting or amplifying what we're sending, or we're tuning into what we're receiving. And without going down some deep spiritual rabbit hole, which we could, but the first step is I think it's important for you to know, like, what does home frequency feel like? Here is, without, like, a simple example. recently when I was watching, a couple of clips on YouTube, I got distracted and started scrolling, and instantly within 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, I get kind of lost in that scrolling because I wasn't being intentional about tuning into signal and looking for things that were going to benefit me on my path, things that lead to growth, that lead to a deeper insight or awareness, clarity, or going, yeah, that's what I want to create, whatever it may be. Like when I got lost in that, I felt a dissonance within myself. I felt kind of icky and dirty. I felt kind of like, I felt that way. And so I think that's the first place to start. Like, because here's the thing that we have to understand about signal versus noise is that nothing is inherently signal or noise. Just like, from the mindset perspective, nothing is good nor bad. It's legitimately our context that determines signal versus noise. So it depends on what you're looking for. If I'm looking, for something about mindset, and that's why I picked up my phone to look at YouTube, and then I get distracted by whatever else, people, acting goofy, or, what somebody said about somebody, or, a bunch of those pieces, right? Then that's the problem. So, knowing it, what is that signal I'm looking for? What is that signal I want to receive? And what is that signal I want to broadcast, right? And finding as much alignment and attunement with that is going to create an internal domain, a visceral feeling of safety, of security, of clarity, of direction. And not to say that we have to be signal 100% of the time, but I think it's important for you to pay attention. Like that would be my first little kind of challenge of sorts would be to go, how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Checking in. I mean, that's one of those things that we do when we're trying to eat healthier. Right?
Sure.
We eat a certain food, and some people have sensitivities to different things, and you try it on and you go, I don't feel great when I eat yogurt or whatever it is. Right? Okay, that's good information. Great. I feel really good when I have blueberries. Cool. I'm going to be doing more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to have that introspective experience.
Yeah, so you have to be clear about what internal, home, safe harbor, green, clarity, all those types of pieces it feels like. So when you if that's what you're looking for, and then you get distracted by something, you recognize this ain't it. This ain't
I'm
it.
on the wrong station. I'm off course.
Yeah, I'm off course. Yeah. Yeah. I need to fine tune my radio station a little bit. I need to get more clear about what it is I do want, what I want to project, and therefore what I want to receive. Right. And then I think the other piece is then we have to really be intentional about curating the information that we allow in. So be social media, news, whatever that might be, right? Just making sure that at least 80% of that information is the signal that you're looking for, that you want to create.
And your circle of influence.
That was my next thing I was going to say.
If you're around people and their signal is all about negativity and pessimism and what's wrong with the world, and notice how that makes you feel. And is that the signal you want to pick up on and broadcast back out? And if it's not, then you've got to adjust your tuning. You've got to adjust your tuning and either find new people to be around or start just broadcasting yourself a new signal, which will then in turn attract people who are in alignment with that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So being clear about what home feels like to you, that clarity feeling, that feeling of safe harbor, making sure that authenticity then is being broadcasted in a way where you feel safe to be that authentic version of you within your environment, within your circle of influence. If you look at it in terms of systems and processes as a business owner or as an athlete or coach, parent, right? I think that a very realistic ratio is the 80-20 rule, which 80-20 shows up in so many things, whether you're talking about nutrition or whatever. I think the idea of being 100% signal would make somebody rigid, right? I think a little bit of occasional noise is fine, right? And I use, a show at the end of a day sometimes to unwind, to detach, watch an Office or an old Seinfeld episode or whatever. So, and that's definitely not signal of what I'm trying to create, who I'm trying to become. I'm definitely not trying to be, like Michael Scott on The Office, but it's funny.
If you were studying to be a comedian or a writer of a show, then it would be probably in alignment with that.
Yeah. So knowing those pieces, right, and then just curating that piece, because it all comes back around. Everything eventually comes back around to your internal domain. This is why it always comes back around to being a heart first conversation, right? Because everything external, whether it be your environment, or whether it be what you're digesting, the information you're consuming, it all is going to turn into your internal dialogue, right? Mm-hmm. And then eventually it's about like, how do you tune into your internal sense of wisdom, your internal, sense of self, confidence, right? Your inner voice. What aspect of yourself are you truly listening to, right? I mean, and this is where we could probably just do a whole podcast on the internal world.
Yeah, I think we'll do that.
Yeah. But that'll be our next conversation. I want to just like lay a little bit of like, maybe people will be more likely to hit it, to watch the next or listen to the next episode. Years ago, I came to a realization that I was no longer going to listen to the voice in my head. Right? Like there was just so much noise in there that I just decided, like, I'm done listening. I'm done listening to my head. Right? So in our next episode, let's talk about head versus heart, and kind of the most simplistic level, it's going to be fear wolf, courage wolf, right? And also talk about being able to be detached and observe things from a higher vantage point, to be able to, because it's this interplay between being able to work with your insides, to be able to tune into signal, and also to curate your external world, circle of influence, social media, all those type of things. Mm-hmm. Anything final thoughts on this piece for today?
Look, I'm excited for the next conversation. I think there's so much that we can unpack here. But if you're listening and you have some comments, questions, or even a request of something that you'd like to hear here on the show, just go to the link in the show notes. You can text us or send us a voice message. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review is also great. We just appreciate you spending your time here and tuning into our signal. So we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.